Okay, everybody. I have something really cool to tell you about. If you haven't heard yet about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain here. It's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one single place. Now, the way that you can do this is you got to download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm, and then you can get started. It's really fun. We just switched over recently here at All Too Real 2, and I'm enjoying it so far. So be sure to check it out and let us know what you think. Okay, everybody, welcome to the latest episode of All Too Real 2. My name is Michael E. Cullen II, and with me, as always, is
Matthew Haas.
That is your name.
Yep.
Yes. Today,
no made-up names this time.
No made-up names?
No.
Well, that's good. That's good. At least you're, realizing who you are and all that.
Yeah.
So today we have a All Too interview with Tommy McLoughlin. Tom was the director of Friday the 13th Part 6, among several other films, including Murder at Greenwich and a bunch of other really cool movies. He's also in the band The Sloths, which is like kind of a heavier band, which is really good. I've listened to a few of their things. It was a really fun interview. Yeah. Anything going on in your life here, Matt?
Not much, but I kind of want to check that band out now.
Yeah, The Sloths is what they're called. Yeah, really good band. Everybody should check them out. There'll be links to everything in the show notes. But without further ado, here is the interview with Tommy McLoughlin. How are you dealing with everything in the world?
Well, I sort of take, the old cliche, one day at a time.
Yeah.
Yesterday was a great day. Yesterday was Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
So, I had an incredible amount of emails from people, which is, they're so kind. The fans are just so great. And then I did a number of different Zoom screenings where they would show the movie and have people all kind of, watch party, I guess they call it.
Oh, nice.
So, that's certainly kind of a cool new innovation that, out of all this misery that we can do.
Yeah.
And then I watched a bunch of the extra features on the box set, Friday the 13th box set. So it was pretty much a Jason day.
Yeah. I bet you it always is on Friday the 13th.
Yeah,
I watched about half of your Friday the 13th today because I hadn't seen it in a while, and I was like, and then I got busy doing other things, so I had to turn it off. But I haven't seen it in a while, and it still holds up really well. I love that movie. It's one of my favorites of the series.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much.
Yeah, I really like. There's I don't know what it is, but the scene where
Jason standing on top of the RV that's turned over and stuff. I don't know what it is, but that's just so ominous, and I like that shot a lot.
Yeah, it's funny because, obviously I wrote it. I had it in mind. It was the last night of the shoot, and it was the last thing we shot. And so everything was sort of riding on, God, I hope this stuntman doesn't kill himself. This was, nobody had done something quite like this. And we enforced that motorhome the best way we could. And he said, I'm going to go for it. I'm going for it. And he sure did. And that thing just sailed. And then that, shot of CJ, standing up there, it's just become this sort of thing for me, like, the caveman and the dinosaur just, standing there on, this big thing he just killed.
Yeah.
So it somehow has kind of lived on beyond all the other images for me on that movie.
Yeah. And it's for sure one of the best, of the series. I remember watching them all when I was in high school is when I first got into the Friday the 13th movies. And, I watched them all back to back that were out at that time. And I remember I like the humor in part 4. It's just, it adds to it a lot. I mean, some of them take themselves too seriously, and then some of them don't take themselves serious enough, and it's a good balance. How did you, get started in, working in entertainment in general? Just curious.
Well, I guess the best way to put it is I was kind of born into it. My father was a magician in vaudeville and a fire eater.
Oh, wow.
So, fire eating is sort of like, something that if you want to be a freak, that's something you can learn to do as opposed to being a freak that's, born as a freak. It's a acquired skill. So it was always strange to be, the son of a fire eater and, go see his shows and stuff. And of course, it didn't take long for that feeling of that adrenaline, of having, people applaud and you entertaining them. So I, started getting into doing magic as a kid, as he did. And, he helped show me stuff. And then he also was a USC film student. So he had, film equipment that he wasn't using. And we literally lived next to the old MGM backlots.
Oh, wow.
So we just went, all my friends, we decided, let's do this on the weekend. So we started going and shooting in the backlots. And of course that put the whole, bug in me that I want to be a filmmaker too. And that lasted till I guess I was about 12. And then the Beatles hit and the Rolling Stones and the Animals and the Yardbirds and all that.
Yeah.
So that was it. The hair grew out. I got, kicked out of, 7 high schools because I was a rock and roller and, kind of rock and roll through the 60s. So, one thing led to another, that the rock and roll led to me wanting to be a better, performer. So I went to Paris and studied with Marcel Marceau to learn how to, do physical things that, that no other lead singers were doing. And then came back and, worked on the streets, as a performer, and whatever I made in the hat was how I ate that night. And it just kind of, I kept wanting to go back and make a movie again like I did as a kid. And it took a while. It took a lot of going to classes and things, learning the craft the best I could. So finally got an opportunity with One Dark Night. And that kind of is what then led to Friday.
Nice. How was it working with Marcel Marceau? That's got to be interesting. Did you work directly with him and everything?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it was, I was like, one of those, I guess like, the hardcore, aggressive, I want what I want to know what you know. Mm-hmm. And so I was kind of working on the mime thing myself in Los Angeles with a teacher named Richmond Shepard. And when I saw Marceau was coming to town, I went and saw his show and I kind of went, I kind of don't want to do that kind of thing, but he's the biggest. So I went backstage and introduced myself and, kind of showed him some of the things I was able to do with, parts of my body. And so, he said, well, you know what? Why don't you come to Paris? And I said, well, I don't have any money. And he says, well, you've got 3 months. And I opened my school. And so that became the objective. I had to get my one and only straight job, make as much money as I could, leave my girlfriend, leave my family, leave the band, and go to Paris and then go, what the fuck did I just do? There's I don't know anybody. I don't speak a word of French, but I learned from a lot of incredible teachers, and he was very one-on-one, and, invited me to go see local shows in France. I could sit on the side of the stage and just really, really study him. But he was, quite giving, quite childlike, arrogant, all the things that you would expect of an artist, back and forth.
Yeah, that's awesome. I took like one mime class back when I was doing theater, and because we had to do a thing where we were mimes at a dinner party one time. That was the weirdest thing I've ever had to do when I was an actor. I was just curious. I saw that you worked with Dick Van Dyke as well on some things. Yeah, how was that? Because he's like one of my idols. I think he's just whatever pedestal you have Dick on, put him on a higher one. Yeah, because he literally is one of the best human beings, period, on the face of the planet. Yes. Not to mention how talented he is. And not to mention he's, 93, 94 now? Yeah. And he's still singing, he's still dancing, he's still making appearances, he's still going to see other people's shows and being supportive. Wow. And when we got that job, I had a group called the LA Mime Company, and Dick came to this theater where we were performing, and he really loved, the visual comedy that I was doing. And the group. And so he invited us to be, like he said, make me the 6th member of your group. I want to have you on my new series, Van Dyke and Company. So it was an incredible thing for us to suddenly be thrown into, the big time. Mm-hmm. And Andy Kaufman was also, discovered and put on that show very early on in his career. And it was just every week I would write the sketches and direct them, the stage them, I should say, because they have a regular director that chooses the camera shots and stuff. But, I do one week would be Lucy and Dick. Another week would be Sid Caesar and Dick. Another week would be Carol Burnett and Dick. Then Chevy Chase, Flip Wilson. I mean, there was all these incredible big stars. And, I was this 26-year-old kid going, this is how you do it. And they were all great. They were all just, put themselves into my hands. Freddie Prinze was probably of all the ones the most excited about doing mine, on the show. Wow. And we did a Thanksgiving piece because that show aired around Thanksgiving. And, he was great, he was just a big guy. Yeah. I mean, seems like you've worked with some of the best physical comedians there too, with Lucy and Chevy Chase and Dick, of course. And then it's just
and if you've seen Sid Caesar,
and Sid Caesar,
he's definitely one of the ones who kind of created the art on television.
Yeah, that's really cool. So when you went from that to then to directing. Did you take anything from mime to use into directing, to help you out, or?
Yeah, very much so. I have a production company, which is called Cinemime, Cinemime. Yeah. And of course, everybody's always going, cinema? No. Cinemime? No. But my goal was at that time when I created that company was to do movies and short films and things where most of what you're going to get from it is going to be nonverbal. And I became such a huge fan of Charlie Chaplin's movies, Buster Keaton's movies, Jacques Tati. When I was in Paris, I saw, his work. And I thought it's really possible to just, be a basically silent character and have other people react to you. So all the comedy becomes universal. I mean, there's no place in the world, there's no age. Kid will laugh at the same thing some, 90-year-old grandpa would laugh at. It just, no barriers with language. So when I started doing the movies, One Dark Night has so many sequences that are in complete silence. Yeah. And it's all about music and sound effects. And then, working with, CJ Graham, so much of what I kind of showed him the way I wanted kind of Jason to feel, and then he picked up the ball and ran with it in a way that, because he was in the military, he really knew how to do this. Somebody else, wouldn't have that kind of precision that he had. So, it was a great way to sort of take things that I knew physically, and then, I've worked with so many actors, in just the physicality of a scene, and the staging and so on.
What kind of advice would you give to anybody that's interested in like getting into like directing or anything in filmmaking in general?
It's since the beginning of films, it has always been hard. It's sort of like you have to kind of fall into the lucky club. And you can't give up. You have to keep going, because there's a lot of doors that'll slam in your face, and it's like, no. It's as I have actually film students these days, and I tell them, the problem with the industry is everybody's programmed to say no. No is the easiest thing, because if you say yes to like a project, bring a script in and say, I want to direct it, and you say yes, and you're an executive. If that movie doesn't work, you're out of job. Yeah. So most people are very gun shy of what they, agree to. And so, then they have to kind of test the waters and see if the next person likes it. And it's sort of like if something goes wrong, they can go, well, he did it, and if it succeeds, well, yeah, they bump up and become, head of the company. Yeah. But the problem is most times, most things don't succeed. Somebody asked me yesterday about, did you know, your Friday the 13th was going to, be so, 34 years and people are still watching it. I said, no, I just tried to make the best movie I could. I just tried to have the characters be likable, and when I cast them, so they all were different types, and tried to have a little more of a story. So the fact that it lasted is just sort of those basic rules that you have to kind of adhere to, with storytelling. But in terms of somebody who wants to be a director these days, everybody's got one of these.
Yeah.
And you can make a really, really good-looking movie. The only thing that's problem with these is the sound. Yeah. So you have to, go online and find some little adapter and get a better mic so that you can hear people and just start making stuff. I did it on Super 8, back in the day. That was the only, tool I had to work with. But now these things look so great. And, of course, as a filmmaker, you always want to have, the big equipment and all the people and stuff. But these students now, they're all in their late teens and stuff. It's just remarkable, some of the things that they come up with and some of the things that they just kind of use that lighter, simpler phone to put the camera in places that, you've never thought of before. And those GoPros are amazing. Stick in a refrigerator, open the refrigerator, take your milk out, bang. There's nothing you can't, kind of come up with. But the hardest thing is the story. Coming up with a person that you care about, you're involved with, that takes you through the story. And there's, the classic 3 acts, a setup, a confrontation, and a resolution. And it has to kind of feel like it's gone through that arc to be most times successful. There's certainly movies that have broken that rule, but they're really rare. And the thing for me always is I hate when I watch a movie and I'm going, who do I care about here? I don't care if this person lives or dies. You're not identifying with them. You're not relating to what they're doing. It's like, you just start to pull. And, whether you're seeing a big Marvel, DC, kind of comic book franchise type movie, or just even some small little movie, and they just cast badly. The person there that's the lead, you can't connect to them. So it's so important to try to, if nothing else, try to get somebody that kind of comes off well, whatever the thing you're doing, whether it's a villain, or, the good guy. There's always got to be something about that person that you can kind of connect to.
Yeah, you gotta care about the characters, or they're, whatever happens to them, whether it be, good or bad, isn't going to matter to the audience at all. If, it's like, oh, wow, that guy's got a new job, I don't really give a crap, or that guy died, I don't care either, that sort of thing. The refrigerator thing reminded me that where you said put a GoPro in the refrigerator. The first feature I directed, I put a Canon DSLR inside of a refrigerator. I don't know why. It was just on the whim. I was like, yeah, this guy has to get a beer out of the fridge. So I was like, I'll just put it in there. And it was pretty cool that you could do that with the way the smaller cameras are. So yeah, because I directed a horror comedy. Actually had Ari Lehman, who was the first Jason Voorhees. He was in the project.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it was Pi Day Die Day. It was a really $7,000 low budget movie, but it's still pretty funny. You also directed Murder in Greenwich, which I really loved. That movie. Yeah,
I'm glad you saw that.
Yeah,
a lot of people haven't seen that.
Yeah,
I'm incredibly proud of that movie because it was a really difficult thing to do because I have so many shots, and we were in New Zealand, and everything had to look like Greenwich, Connecticut, and all the New Zealand actors had to speak with perfect American accents, which they did.
Wow, I didn't know that was shot in New Zealand. That's cool. I've got the DVD of that actually. I've watched it from time to time. It's one of my favorite based on a true story type movies. I tend to like those movies anyways, based on true stories, but that one, I think, the performances in it are really good.
They really get under your skin because you're thinking, this really happened. This is bizarre.
Yeah, that was how did you get involved in that project?
Murder in Greenwich?
Yeah.
Well, I, obviously started out to be just a filmmaker for, the movie screens. Mm-hmm. And, I go all the time, or used to until the pandemic. Always, want to feel what a movie is like with an audience.
Yeah.
The solo thing is just, it's not the same experience. It just isn't. And so, I made One Dark Night and then Jason. And then I had this other romantic comedy fantasy that I was carrying around for years, Date with an Angel. Yeah. And that became the next thing, which I did with Dino De Laurentiis, the producer. And then he said, why don't you do the Stephen King movie I got? So then that was Sometimes They Come Back.
Yeah.
And that was, incredibly successful, in Europe. And, we shot it, CinemaScope. And then we also had to kind of frame it because CBS was going to buy it and put it on TV because, Stephen King movies at that time were enormously popular.
Yeah.
So when it aired, CBS then asked me if I wanted to make a big miniseries that they were doing, which was called In a Child's Name. And it had Valerie Bertinelli, who I never even heard of, because I was not a television person. I was just all about, film. So I sort of reluctantly said yes, because I just was afraid I was going to be in way over my head. But I just kind of put all these horror touches, into it and made scenes that, somehow, the relating to the TV movie and that true story pull people in. And then the fact that we went out on, these act outs that were just, horrendous, that the second night of the miniseries, this thing, shot up past Roseanne, past everything, and was the biggest, TV movie of 1991. So suddenly now I'm being offered these incredible TV movies. And I really didn't want to do television, but, it's like my monsters went from, Jason, and I did Freddy for Freddy's Nightmares, and Stephen King, obviously.
Yeah.
And now I'm doing, AIDS, global warming, segregation, cyberbullying. I mean, so real monsters, the stuff that you have to kind of contend with in life. So it just sort of kind of shifted my game. And in that time period is when USA Network, asked me to do Murder in Greenwich. And so I really wanted to make that somehow really unique and very cinematic, the best I could. And I had a great crew and I had a great cast. Again, it's one of those things where every time, this is for you guys as directors, I had so much stuff to try to do, each day that I had 3 units going at the same time. I'd go over and set up a shot over at this side of the house, and I'd set up. Sorry?
No, no problem.
Okay, sorry.
It's okay.
Let me kill this. So I would have something set up outside, have a cameraman there, go and set up something inside, and then maybe set up something like in the bedroom. And then I'd go to the first thing, shoot it, go to the second thing, shoot it, then, give the first one something else to do. So I was just bouncing around, but we got, all this footage that I wanted for the way I wanted to cut it.
Yeah.
So it was going to be very kind of fast and, impressionistic. And, the producers were going, this is crazy. And the actors were going, this is fun. So, I kind of got away with it. But that, I really loved, everybody in there. Chris Maloney and I have been friends for years. We did 3 movies together, and Robert Forster was amazing. And Maggie Grace was such a heartthrob. I mean, just was terrific. Everybody. I mean, it was a really wonderful cast.
Yeah, I think Maloney's one of the most. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to say underrated, but he's definitely one of the best actors out there. I think anytime I see him in anything, it just seems effortless when you watch him, the way he acts.
Yeah. And he's one of the funniest guys you ever met, too. It's great.
What do you find different about directing, like, for like a film in theaters to TV? Is it the budget that's the biggest? Is there a hurdle of any kind, or is it?
It's also flip-flop now that it costs more to make these, episodes. My son, works in the AD department, and, he was doing Westworld.
Yeah.
And that was $11 million per episode.
Wow.
For a friggin' episode. $11 million. How many, cool little films could we make with $11 million?
Yeah.
And then he went on to the Star Trek series, and that was $15 million an episode. Wow. And it's gotten so unbalanced that now if you want to actually make a film, you've got to make something pretty small and pretty intimate, to be able to just compete, get so that you can make it, and that the producers and whoever does the distribution can at least get their money back. Yeah. Because everything's going to television. And, when I was doing television, it was like, you're doing television? And it's like I said, when I'm shooting it, I'm thinking of the big screen. I'm planning for people to have bigger screens one day because I hadn't really come in yet. And the same thing when I mixed the sound. I wanted it to, go into the surrounds and make it as cinematic as possible. And boy, suddenly when Scorsese was doing television, all these major heavy hitters, Quentin, then it's completely flipped around. Yeah. Where, if you wanted to get a break, either you had to be part of that group somehow, some way, like you're the cameraman or you're the editor or you're the producer. They got a chance to direct all those things. But as just an up-and-coming director, you really have to kind of make your own thing and try to make your own noise with it and get it in festivals and, get somebody to notice you. And they're, if you're young, they always want to go, they always feel you guys know more than everybody else. You don't, nor do we. I've always looked at myself as a student. There's always something more to learn. There's always somebody that does something you go, shit, how did you think that up? That's amazing, and that to me is great. But as far as the industry goes, they're always looking for somebody to come along and say, I'll tell you what's really cool. And if you happen to be good and you happen to have this thing work, you've got a career for a while. You just try not to screw up.
Yeah, it really has kind of flip-flopped, and especially now with the pandemic, everybody's at home anyways. So luckily, a lot of things that probably weren't, getting eyes on it are getting eyes on it now too because of,
we're doing we're doing an actual creep. It's called Creep Fest, quarantine Creep Fest, and it's Jeffrey Ruddock who wrote the Final Destination.
Oh yeah, I know Jeff. Yeah,
and Daniel Merrick who did Blair Witch, and he did God, I'm blanking. Underworld. He did the Underworld series. It's, I think, producer or writer.
Yeah.
Not his name. Sorry.
That's okay.
And, what we're doing is basically putting it out there that make anything that's, kind of within the theme of being quarantined, that's a horror thing, that's 2 minutes, 1 minute, whatever you want to do, send it to us, and then we'll all look at it. So your stuff will be exposed to, horror directors and writers and, producers. And then if you are picked as number one, you get like this $15,000 camera package. And then I think it's like $500 a second prize, $300 and all the way down. So
yeah,
we have that going on.
That's
now.
pretty cool.
I think that wraps up towards the end of November for that. But, we're all doing a thing that Dan came up with called The Black Veil, which is like an episodic horror thing where he's bringing in these directors and letting us write our own thing and direct it. And, of course, we were on that, ready to go when pandemic hit, so everything's on hold.
Yeah.
Which is always... you always think, okay, one more month it's going to be over, and it's like, no.
Yeah,
I don't know how it is where you are, but like in Los Angeles, it just keeps getting worse.
Yeah, I'm in Toledo, Ohio, and I was supposed to do actually this morning. I was supposed to do a video, just interview shoot that I was supposed to do, and we got canceled because of the pandemic. So again, postponed again. We got postponed a couple weeks ago, and now we're postponed again because more breakouts in the pandemic, unfortunately. So. And
I did do one thing that Fangoria was doing. It's for Shudder, and it'll be on like next year, like this time, Halloween and stuff. And I think it's called Monsters. And literally each episode is about one of the monsters, and talking to the people who did Jason movies, Freddy movies, all the way down the line. And they actually had us come to the studio. Huge rules, masks, all that stuff, crew all in masks, keeping the distance and things. But it felt great to be in a studio again, even though there's all these restrictions. But that was, kind of brave on their part. And there's a few film companies that are, just going for it. They're making everybody take tests every day. And so, the hope is, that they can still produce something. But you're losing so much time, with all these restrictions and the pods everybody has to stay in. Yeah. Separate people.
Sure, it's taking them like twice as long to shoot some things. And
exactly.
Yeah, it's got to be. Yeah, I've talked to a few people that are on TV sets and stuff, and they're, being tested every day. They've got to wear the masks up until they're on screen, and a lot of times people forget to take off the masks when they start rolling, and then they have to reshoot that. You get so used to wearing the masks everywhere, you forget you have it on. What was it like working with, actually, I'm just curious because I used to be a big soap opera fan, working with Michael Knight on Date with an Angel. Was he a good actor? Or?
Michael Knight?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was, I always seem like I'm going on crazy with actors, but, you get so close when it's something that you wrote and you have a particular vision, and then you find somebody who can add another element to that, which, makes it even better. And Michael was, that kind of an actor. And when we went on the road to do publicity, there wasn't any place that we went that women were just like, Michael, and I mean, we went through airport security with the thing beeping, and nobody paid any attention. They were so gaga seeing Michael walk through. And he was just, amazing superstar. Problem is that, the soap opera audience don't go to the movies.
Yeah.
They stay home, they watch the soap. That's it. So we couldn't pull that crowd over as much as we wanted to.
Yeah, because if they can get Michael free in their living room, they're probably not going to want to go pay for it, unfortunately.
I mean, it's just going out to the movies, if you have kids, babysitters, the cost, all that stuff, even back then when we did Date with an Angel in the 80s, it still was expensive. Now it's ridiculous. I mean, we've got theaters here in Los Angeles that charge $29 to see a movie.
Oh, wow.
You can go, like maybe just over into the next town. I'm talking like, 2 miles or something, and see the same thing for $10.
Yeah.
So it's, but it's, the movie business was kind of pricing itself out of the business.
Yeah.
And that has happened. So now it's going to be interesting to see how everything is going to come back. What is going to be the new normal?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting after the pandemic ends and how long it'll take for people to want to feel safe to go back to the movie theaters. I mean, I haven't been to a movie since, I think, February in theaters, so it's just kind of weird. I was thinking of maybe risking it for something, but I just don't think I want to necessarily. Just in case, you never know how many people are going to be in that theater.
Yeah. Yeah. I've gone to 2 drive-ins.
Yeah. Drive-ins are probably good. Yeah. Unfortunately, here in Ohio, our drive-in season, I think, just ended. So we're out of that, unfortunately, but we do have a really cool drive-in locally, which is cool. But, it's just unfortunate that it's only a few months out of the year. But I saw that you, on The Wrong Man worked with Mahershala Ali as well, and Gallian Hurd served as executive producer. Those are, and Julia Ormond as well. Oh wow, that's I have yet to see that movie, but I was just curious about the experience with that.
Well, I knew Mahershala was special. There was no question. I didn't realize, well, just like working with Hilary Swank, I knew she was special, but I didn't expect, Oscars.
Oh yeah,
one after the other. Same thing with Mahershala. But he's so spiritual. He's Muslim and he's like really just cool. I mean, there's just something about him, just so chill and so wonderful. And yet he's got a range. He can do like anything. Yeah. And Julia Ormond was also incredible. I mean, she was a heartthrob in those early movies.
Oh yeah.
And so getting a chance to work with her was amazing. And Gail, was, certainly
I know
a very tough producer.
Yeah.
And, she really kept you on your game and, was very supportive, but always was questioning, you're going to make it, you're going to be able to, get this. And I thought because she was married to Jim Cameron, part of all those movies, I'd have all kinds of times. Like, it was somehow even tighter, on the budget.
Yeah.
Because it was just a hard movie to get made, because they sell all these things overseas, and somehow movies that dealt with any black issues didn't sell that well at that time overseas. So they weren't putting in a whole lot of money into it. But for me, it was a story and a chance to really make something that I really felt, personally involved with. And it was just, a great time to be down in Georgia. And, I'd go to Southern Baptist churches on Sunday and be part of that whole, the only white guy in there, but the energy and the, the singing, then they went for 2.5 hours in services. So you walked out of there just like, you'd seen God.
I'm sure within 2.5 hours, if you haven't, you've been wasting time.
Yeah. It's a one heck of an experience. Once a hell of one. That's not.
Yeah, no. So, are you still doing music and everything too then?
Yeah. Unfortunately, the last time the band played live was a year ago. This November of last year. And then we kind of went into, all right, let's start booking for the next year. And we got, a tour. We had a whole bunch of dates that were in the spring into the summer. And we were going to record the other half of our second album. And then, everything stopped.
Yeah.
And because, all of us are older, there's the other guy. I'm a little more crazy than they are, but, I'm going, let's just rent a large place and just separate. Let's just play together. And it's like, no, I don't want to, if I get that shit, it's like, okay. So there's been very, very little, even communication, but we've tried to keep, the website alive. I've just got involved with these guys that are, helping put our music back out there again, mainly using Instagram as a way. And then I made a music video with one of our old songs, and I had this really wonderful, I guess he's 18, 19-year-old editor at the school where I work, put all these pieces from 2020, all, everything, all the pandemic things, the hospitals, the deaths, the Black Lives Matter, the looting, and the song was called I Want a New Life. And he cut together footage from other shows we did and was able to lip sync me to the words from these other performances. So it really, I thought, came across really powerful. But it's like we're living it still. It's sort of like, I get this feeling like, well, it's a good record of the time and the feeling, but it's like when you're depressed, you want to see a depressing film. So, we're going to kind of sit on that video for a while.
That sounds cool, though. I'll have to check it out whenever you release it. Where can people find the music and everything? And is there anything else that you wanted to say before we end up here? Sorry.
I'd love you guys to check out. We have a site, www.thesloss, SLOTHS, like the cute little things with 3 claws, but not so cute. And so thesloss.org, all lowercase. And then on Instagram, we also have at thesloss65, and that's the thing that's trying to put more music and things on there so you can hear. But if you go on YouTube and put in the Sloss band, because when you put Sloss, you're going to get those cute, furry little animals. But if you put Sloss band, there's a lot of our live performances, a couple of the music videos, so you'll see the other side of me, which is pretty
Very
crazy. Cool. I kind of blank out when I'm out there just like it becomes something else, but it's great fun. And
so I don't know. Before we go, what would you say is your favorite film of all time? I'm just gonna throw out a random question.
What I always say is Frank Capra's "It's a Wonderful Life," and people go, "The guy made Jason Lives like that." And I go, there's Frank Capra all through that movie. It's all about making people laugh, making them kind of care about the people. Mm-hmm. Some of the physical gags and things that I did, just a sense of humor, like with the James Bond tribute. All these things were things, because Frank Capra was like a mentor to me. I date with an angel. I bounced the script off of him and showed him the movie. Wow. He said that, he thought it was a wonderful movie, really, go see it. So he had this effect on me because I always saw that last scene of It's a Wonderful Life on TV. I didn't know what the movie was, but every time I saw this last scene, there was so much joy in it.
Yeah.
I'd start to tear up. And I thought, what the hell? I never see what this movie is. And then when I was at a film seminar and Capra was there, he screamed, "It's a Wonderful Life." And I went, oh my God, that's it. So it sort of has kind of stayed with me as if you can make a movie like that and leave that behind. I mean, it's become the ultimate Christmas movie next to Christmas Story. Yeah. And it just has this sense of, one person can make a difference in this world. You just have to, believe it and stick to it. And, those very simple things that make you feel like, yeah, I'm glad I watched this. Yeah, it really got to me. And so that's why I think that one, for me, is my all-time favorite.
Yeah, my sister has 7 kids, and a couple Christmases ago, maybe 4 now or something, but a few ago, I made all of them watch It's a Wonderful Life because they had never seen it, and it all connected with most of them. I mean, the littler ones, obviously, they didn't care if it wasn't a cartoon, but I just think that film does it. It's touched so many people over so many generations. It's just amazing. That's definitely in my top 10 of all my favorite movies of all time. Anything else you wanted to say before I let you go for the evening?
Well, probably some people know that I've written a sequel to my Jason Lives, called, Jason Never Dies. So I'm sitting on this script and have this great vision of how I want to shoot it, but with the current lawsuit, I don't know when that's going to happen, and I don't know if this is the movie that they're going to choose, but I've been really letting fans know about it, and, basically the kind of, basic story. So I'm not giving away all the secrets, but just the basic story of it. And so, that I'm hoping people will be supportive on that. And
for sure.
It's down to, would you guys sign this thing and saying that you want to see this movie? Lots of times that internet power really makes a difference. But I made a movie or wrote a movie for the fan in me, and hopefully people will feel that way if you love the series. Not that we're doing anything exactly like the other movies, but it's kind of it follows the rules of being at Crystal Lake and being isolated there, and Jason being out there, and except this time these girls don't know who Jason is. Or in Friday, they were very savvy. Everybody was savvy about him. And that, it's all sent during the winter.
Oh, wow.
And all the kills and stuff happen on Thanksgiving. So it's, it's a whole different way of kind of approaching, the Jason story.
That'd be very cool. If you send me the info, I'll definitely put that in the show notes for the episode so people can sign the petition for that and get that done. Because I'd really like to see that. Because I'd really like to see any Friday the 13th movie, honestly. Because I wish this lawsuit stuff would end so we can get more Jason out there or whatever direction they want to take it in.
Well, the fans are making some really good ones. There's been a few that are not so good, but there's been some that really I went, wow,
Mm-hmm.
And I was in one of them, Vengeance, because they wanted to use my Jason's dad idea, in the thing, and I said, yeah, go. I couldn't do it, at that time because they were afraid that the fans were going to think the next movie was going to be, Jason's father and not Jason.
Yeah.
But they got C.J. Graham, who was, my Jason, and Jason was playing the father, and then I'm in the opening scene as the caretaker of the graveyard. So we got to do a scene together, which was great fun.
Oh, very cool. I'll have to definitely check that one out too. Big Friday the 13th. I think it's my, with Halloween, it's my favorite series. Both of those are, I think, the best horror series ever made. I like Friday. I like Freddy as well, but there's, when it comes to the big three, I think, Jason's probably the best. I don't know. I've always been a fan of Jason. I played Jason in a haunted house a couple of years too, even though I'm only like 5'6" and not intimidating at all. But somehow it worked. So
So the mask and any aggressiveness with him wearing a mask is real freaky. Wow.
Yeah. So, well, it was great talking with you. Hopefully we can do it again sometime, and hopefully 2020 gets better soon, 2021 is better for us, and then we can start seeing more films and more music and everything from you. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you guys for being fans. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. Thank you.
Rolling. Okay, that was my interview with Tommy McLoughlin, the film director, musician extraordinaire. That was a fun interview. Really enjoyed talking to him. Really nice guy. A lot of insight. He was a mime and other things too, which was really cool to find out about him. Anything going on in your life, Matt?
No, not much. Just taking it easy. Not really going out a lot or anything.
That's good. So, anyways, just wanted to say to everybody, make sure you check out all the links that we have in our show notes. Follow us on the social meds and all of that good stuff.
Social meds.
Yes.
Good one.
And, just check them all out. We'll always post a lot of cool stuff on Facebook and Twitter and the Instagram.
The gram,
the twits and the books. And we haven't gotten into the TikToks yet, but maybe we will. I don't know. And the God. We'll have to see. Anyways, hope everybody's having a good day, evening, morning, afternoon, whatever it is when you're listening to this podcast. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to All Too Real 2 podcast, a Cullen Park production. Produced and edited by Michael E. Cullen II. Music by Matthew Hawes. Subscribe and share the show. Visit us at cullenpark.com.